Maybe we weren't.
There.
Now we're live.
Now we're live.
Now we're live. And we're going to talk about abortion and disenfranchised grief. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
something
there's so many ways that's disenfranchised.
So many ways. So many. And when I started collecting my resource page, I'm still, you know what? I just added two more resources onto the resource page like 15 minutes ago. Yeah.
I've been watching it grow, and it's an amazing page. And anyone who has their hands on it, you will be grateful.
Yeah, and I will send it out to everybody who signs up. So yeah, just to send it out there.
Yeah, our therapist Courtney is doing pregnancy loss programming, and all of that is such a big part of it. And there's the disenfranchisement it's such a big issue. It's not only the individual, but it's the partner, it's the family, it's nationally with the conversation. Yes. It's social justice based with all of that history.
Absolutely. It's how we talk about it, how we don't talk about it, how I have several articles that I found really about Black women's lived experiences of abortion. I don't know if you got a chance to look.
I did. Yeah, I looked at them. Yeah.
Which I think I actually want to start there. Because that really, man, I love this article. You're really talking about choice. When we talk about pro-choice, and that it hasn't been a choice, particularly for people of color, for a very long time.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And it was a defense during much of history.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They
and then there's blame with it, and it's so tangled.
It is so tangled. This article I really liked because it brought it down into 6 different domains. And the first one of community experience and intergenerational wisdom. The second one, personal experience and beliefs. 3, the process of even accessing abortion. 4, reflect, and actually it was 4 domains. And then reflecting on the experience of abortion and recovery. Yeah.
I'm trying to get that down in the chat, but I missed the 2 middle, and I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay, so the first one was community experience and intergenerational.
The
second one is personal experience and beliefs. Third is the process of accessing abortion. And the fourth one was reflecting on abortion experience and recovery. And those talking about those disparities about family planning and reproductive health outcomes, and feeling valued and unvalued.
Yeah. I'm going to get that up. It is such a weighty piece, and it's something that when I'm working with someone who is a woman of color who's had this experience, I try really, it's her experience. I'm not going to at all try to tell her what her experience reflects on, but I try to bring those pieces up to give her space to look at not only is she experiencing her own loss, but all those other intergenerational pieces and all that trauma is coming into this.
Yeah.
And the responses she may be getting from those around her are also reflecting that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. It's such a long article, but I want to, let me see. Really the primary theme. Hi, Diana. The primary theme of the choice is a privilege is often constrained and unattainable in a system that was not built for Black people.
And is becoming even less available now.
Yes, and in states where people of color are more affected and have even a much even harder time being able to get access.
Yeah, and those who have pregnancies that can't be maintained and have to have a medical procedure, there's even less access and there's less health care available. And it's not covered by state insurance plans. There's just so many layers of inaccessibility and blame.
Yeah, an enormous amount of blame. I really wanted to do this subject because I've had several women. I haven't had any men that have come in to talk about abortion grief, which doesn't mean that they're not there. And in fact, actually, I added 2 more sites, one of abortion, men and abortion. But the people who come in, often actually, by the time they come in to see me in private practice, so that's another layer of availability for some people and some not, but that they come in years later, where and in fact I cited one of the articles which was headed, can abortion cause depression? No, by the way. Okay.
Right.
And that abortion, and this is something that shows up in other websites, that it's mentally unhealthy. It is, honestly, it's the way that it's handled is mentally unhealthy.
And the support system or lack of support system, that's mentally unhealthy.
And a theme of all the secrecy of experiencing so much judgment, of not wanting to say anything. And so women who are coming in years later, and it's not Jill, you and I have talked about prolonged grief disorder, and my opinion is it's not.
I join you.
It shouldn't be a disorder. Okay, it's grief, and the grief shows up sometimes years later. Often, I've heard from people when after they've had their children later on, and then look back and reflect when they're in a very different place, and it has a really different meaning, and all of this stuff that never got acknowledged or said, and all of those dreams and hopes and expectations that all of a sudden have a different meaning now,
and all the attachments to that pregnancy, that they have held on to, especially if they didn't feel like they had free agency in determining that was their choice. Like they made the choice, but they felt pressure. Right. Those folks have, and the men involved in that also have the highest degree of difficulty, according to some research, about the decision that was made. And then when children come along later, then it gets attached to that birth, and then you have that level of emotion with the birth, and that joins with the level of emotion about the loss and the grief.
Yeah. In the first article that I had referred to, when it was later on the article talking about moments that were helpful. And one of the things is multiple participants felt that having providers of color, especially for Black women providers, were important important strengths in their abortion care experiences. And one woman gives an example of being really touched by a Nigerian woman who was willing to tell her about her experience, in a way of, you're not alone. And that's what I hear a lot of, that that fear and that search for, are you going to judge me if I tell you this?
It almost feels to me, and it has for a long time, like we need a Me Too movement
Mm-hmm.
about abortion and abortion choices
Absolutely.
and pregnancy losses
Mm-hmm.
related to that, and even pregnancy losses that were miscarriages, not an abortion by choice. We need to have a Me Too, but it's so scary because there is such a level of blame. And
Yes.
even in the therapist community, if you speak out and say, we need to treat this as a
Mm-hmm.
loss, there are a not insignificant number of therapists who
Mm-hmm.
jump on the judgment train.
Right. Right. So,
And they tend to
so
be people of privilege, and they tend to be people, lots of them are someone who's never had to face an experience like this.
right. So I will share, and in fact, actually, in picking this topic, and Jill, I love when I put it out to you. You were like, yes, okay. But even
Do
in picking
this.
the topic, I noticed that I
Mhm,
had a little discomfort, like, okay, I'm going to put this out there, and
mhm,
not really quite sure how this is going to be received.
mhm.
I had a client who came in. This is many, many, many years ago, who had had an abortion when she was much younger. She had since gotten married, um, and had two children. Her children were grown, and but it was an election year, um, and Roe versus Wade was coming up, and again, this was probably at least more than 20 years ago. Um, and she, the first session, she asked, have you had an abortion? And I still remember sitting there going, hmm. That there was a tiny hesitation of, oh, do I answer that, or do I? And I said, actually, I have.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think that there was like a spring underneath the couch that she was sitting on, because she jumped up and practically gave me this huge hug.
Because there was a joining in that loss.
Yeah, but you know what? There was that I was willing to say yes or
Right.
no. Even
Mhm.
if I had said no, she said, you know what? I'm just grateful that you didn't answer that question the way
With a
that
question.
the last five therapists have answered, which is,
Mhm.
why is that important to you? What, I'm curious as to why, and it's like, no, you know what? The reason why they ask is because, are you going to be truthful with me?
Right.
Are you going to judge me? Yeah. Yeah.
Are
And,
you going
and
to help me own my emotions, or are you just going to be a blank slate that mirrors me back? That's not helpful when you're dealing with loss.
exactly, exactly. And so I think that she needed to hear that. And I
Mhm.
didn't have to go into a whole lot of details at all. And
Oh,
there were times that she would say, well, you went through the same thing. And I'd say, well, hold on. Whoa, wait, my circumstance is really different than yours. And then I was able to redirect it back
mhm.
to her. Okay.
Right.
Um, but, uh, but I think that piece is 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 beyond important. Of, are you
Mhm.
willing to tell the truth? And again, even if I had said no, she said, even if you had said no, I just appreciate that you're willing to tell the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's hugely important. And we need to be able to be there for our clients in that way. If it's a therapist who hasn't experienced it,
Mm-hmm.
don't lie, but tell them you haven't, but that you
Right.
respect the decision that they had to make or that they
Mm-hmm.
chose to make, and you're here for them.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
don't be a blank slate.
And what's that like for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, One of the first articles, and again, I'll send this out to everybody who signed up. One of the first articles I listed was published in Counseling Today, which is the American Counseling Association publication. It was about Catherine Beckett, and it is a really great article, really with a lot of thought about, how do we even broach this? How do we start unpacking it? How do we even acknowledge being able to even just ask, and the way that we ask, the tone that we ask. I like to include, and I think, you and I have talked about, doing a loss history. I love doing loss histories with anybody and everybody that comes in. And, and including that of, have you had any pregnancies that have ended in whatever way? Have you had abortions? But not of, she uses an example of not asking, you haven't had an abortion, have you? Right. And so
that's a negative question.
Right. Is this something you've had experience with? Okay. But
I like having intake documents that say, what experiences have you had with pregnancy? Have you had pregnancies that have ended either unexpectedly or by planning? There you go.
Oh, Jill, I like that. That's good wording.
Right? That's everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And that tells the client even before they meet us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really great. You know what? I'm going to include that on ours also. I like your wording on that. Yeah.
We need to be able to make our places safe for our clients to be able to tell us all the experiences. And, for that, some of them, they've already resolved it. They've grieved. They're done. But it gives them that extra measure of safety for whatever they are going to bring to our office and bring to us to work on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then be cautious if you've got someone who's chosen an abortion to say, oh, and then you got to have children after all. Stop it. Stop it. They don't replace each other.
No. They don't replace each other. Yeah. That's that goes along with that. Oh, here, well, at least you da-da-da. It's like, don't at least da-da-da. It's not helpful.
It's a discomfort cleaner-upper for someone who's uncomfortable on the receiving end when it comes to this discussion, and it doesn't belong anywhere.
I love that. It's a discomfort cleaner-upper.
That's a clinical term, just so that you know.
A discomfort cleaner-upper.
I'm putting it in the notes. Can you tell it's Friday and I've had 6 cups of coffee?
The discomfort cleaner-upper. Yeah. So there's a few articles. I always, I love anything and everything from whatsyourgrief.com. They did a great article. I think it was Lisa that did the article on what's it called? It's called Grief After Abortion, Healing from Unspoken Loss. And it's the unspoken loss. It's what doesn't get discomfort cleaner up. I like it's the unspoken things that never got heard, that never got said. People will talk about, I never gave that pregnancy, I never gave that baby a name. Do you want to?
Do you want to have a ceremony?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even lighting a candle or creating a little stone headstone and nestling it in your garden. Right?
Yeah. Actually, we do sand tray at our office sometimes, and I found an awesome figurine of a pregnant woman, and used one of my clients used that in part of her work of saying goodbye.
Yeah.
We
added caskets and headstone stars.
Yeah. So often, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, there is no funeral. there's no, there's no public mourning, you know, in being able to honor. One of the articles I was reading, women were talking about, you know, it would be so wonderful if there was, you know, when during the procedure at the hospital, if you're at the hospital or if you're at a Planned Parenthood center, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a ward that you know, honored the pregnancy in the first place and saying goodbye.
Yeah. That's hugely important, and there isn't. And when folks have had a miscarriage and then have to have a full D&C after, even after they've passed the pregnancy, they need to be able to say goodbye. Those are all the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's important to have that option and that opportunity.
You know, I think
it's also expensive sometimes, so we have to think outside the box.
Yes. You know, is you know, I think the whole relationship with the baby, with the pregnancy, with is almost like grabbing at a cloud. You know, that
it's ethereal.
Yes, and so real at the same time. Yeah.
And we don't give folks a chance to have a voice for it.
Yeah. I like to ask, you know, I want people to be able, and they need to be able to tell the whole story of from the very beginning. And sometimes that's, you know, even further back. You know, when was the first time that you even realized that you could get pregnant, or you wanted to, or you didn't want to? You know?
And you were trying not to, or you thought it was going to be okay, and then it wasn't.
Or that you were so excited about the pregnancy and then found out that that the baby had Potter syndrome, where the kidneys don't develop, and there is no cure for that. The child,
or their anencephaly or something, right?
Yeah,
we need people to be able to tell us about this child that had a name, because if it's a planned pregnancy, by the time that child is, you know, 6 weeks along in that pregnancy, it's right. That kid has a name and a college and a sport and a favorite color, right? All of those things are already there. We know their hair color and their eye color, and it's all not true, but it's in our heads. We're already attached.
Right. Yeah. It's true here. Yeah.
Yeah. When I did adoption work, we worked with families about, you know, everybody has their ideal child. Now let's talk about what the reality is, whether it's birth or adoption. Right?
Yes.
But when we're losing it, when we have to choose to terminate a pregnancy, then we lose that child. And they need to have voice for that.
Those dreams for that child. You know, I know. You know, we help people write letters to that child, and sometimes sometimes the letter either is to that child or it's to other people around that there were some significant events that happened, and that they really need to be able to have a voice and express to the coroner who came up at 3:00 in the morning and insisted on taking quote the body away from a mother who had just given birth and was there for the death of her son, you know, 35 minutes later. You know, and that she had a whole lot that she needed to say to that coroner.
Somebody should have locked that door.
You know what? Actually, I have to say, there was a wonderful birth death doula who had been involved knowing what the mom and dad knew beforehand. And so it was horribly traumatic for her, but she was also able to get regrounded and say, no, here's my rights. I have a right to actually keep his body here with me. I can even take him home if I want to. That's different across states, but I really advocate for therapists to find out what those laws are.
Yeah. And to prepare their clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that there's so much that gets unacknowledged that really needs to come out. I usually help people write letters. Other people do empty chair or talk it out or sing it out or art it out. Yeah.
I've found that empty chairs are a little more traumatic and a little less helpful because it's just reinforcing. But doing things with arms crossing and holding is a little more effective. But every client is different.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh. So there's oh my gosh, there's so many. I want to kind of just touch on all the feelings, including relief and feeling guilty or bad about the relief, or that feeling relief, guilt, sad, and mad all at the same time.
Right. Yeah. All of those things. And for those who've chosen to terminate a pregnancy after an assault, then there's all of those feelings that go with that as well.
Yeah. And all of that trauma.
And we need to be prepared to hear all of it.
Yeah. As well as all of the ways that they have not been respected, all the ways that they have been shut down by all the people around them. Yeah.
I've seen it in so many ways. I've seen folks who've faced those experiences and been told, well, you should be okay now. It's over with. No, because it takes 6 weeks to get the brain chemistries and the body chemistry back in check. You're going through all the same hormone changes after a pregnancy, right?
Yeah. Which I think is
really after a pregnancy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we don't get time off for that.
Exactly. And so much isolation. Yeah, and we don't get. You're right. We absolutely don't get time off. There's
no miscarriage time off. There's no pregnancy termination time off.
Right.
You get time off for a vasectomy before you get time off for a miscarriage.
How crazy is that? Right?
That's insane. Yeah. And that's where we need to sign all those FMLA documents and get the people the time off they need.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking through also all of.
You had so many good articles on that list. I would encourage anybody listening to take that list from Deb and read all of it because it's amazing information.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to share really quick. I will share it. Let's see if I can. Okay. Yes. And come on. Where is it? It's here. Okay. So here's my list. So, post-abortion emotions. So that's the initial article I was talking about with counseling today. It's a really good article. I like that a lot. Facts about abortion and mental health, which I included because I also included. I am admittedly more on the pro-choice side. Of this, and but I wanted to also take a look at other websites, advertisements that were coming up. One that is a website, Waterleaf Women's Center, Recovering Emotionally from After Abortion, and what what I highlighted here is post-abortive women are 81% more likely to experience issues such as depression and anxiety. And I included actually another article, Psychological Effects of Abortion, that actually refutes that study that was done. But I mentioned that because that study is cited over and over and over again. And that's the study I included was Abortion and Mental Health with Cambridge Court. That's the article that gets quoted over and over and over again.
I believe that one was actually cited also by the Supreme Court. The one about the psychological damage.
Yeah,
I think that was included in the SCOTUS decision.
You know what? I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. Yeah. So that's the one when I was looking through all the research, I was like, that one came up over and over and over again. And this physician actually refuted that. But I want to include those. Let me see. What else was I going to tell? Oh, you know what? So I'll just say here's I've got men in abortion as well, depression after abortion. And I want to include the depression after abortion because I'm gonna come back so I can see you, Jill. I included the one about depression and anxiety and grief is because and that goes with the whole mental illness as well. It causes mental illness. It's like, what if we just said
it doesn't.
It's a loss and we have grief.
And they're grieving.
And that's not a mental illness. And then we have to take a look at then how is that supported or unsupported in our communities, in our families, with our friends, with the medical profession. And how
do we talk to doctors about this and make it clear that they need to be looking for these things in their patients and their spouses?
Yeah. And
I've also worked with surrogacy families, and they were pregnant, but they weren't pregnant. And then something went wrong and the pregnancy was gone. And there were two grieving parents who sometimes were thousands of miles away, but they just lost their baby.
Yeah.
And they were trying to figure out how to support the surrogate, but they were also trying to support themselves. This is such a big, like you drop that pebble in the pond.
And there's so many lives who are affected. Yeah.
And that we don't acknowledge.
Exactly. The impact that we ignore, that we don't see, that we name something else, that we say, oh, well, they're mentally ill. They're grieving.
They're supposed to be sad. They're supposed to cry. They can be mad if they need to be. They can be happy if they want to be at times. And they need to be able to do something to mark this loss. Whether it was a chosen termination or a non-chosen one, it's a loss.
Yeah. And even in the, and we've talked about this, even in the chosen, it's often feels like it's not chosen. That it had to be for the sake of the other children, or for the sake of themselves, or for the sake of that potential life that and how's the impact of that life, and who's going to value that life or not,
or future pregnancies, or whatever it is. We need to. I'm watching women now who are coming forward and saying, there's a group of 5 women who've just come forward in Texas and said, this is what this law is doing to us. And none of us wanted to lose our pregnancies, and all of us have to terminate them. And some of us aren't even allowed to. And they've lost their ability to have a say-so over their bodies. Yeah. And they're going to lose that child right after they go through birth. Like, all of that comes into this. And then for therapists, there's, how do I write notes and not end up sending someone potentially in for consequences for this.
Yeah. It's interesting. There was one article, I can't remember, it was one of the articles that I have on there, that actually not only refuted that that abortion is unhealthy for mental health. It actually, I think it was the physician, that they cited that there was research that having children, that not being able to have the abortion, have that choice, is that becomes more harmful. It's like, why are we not looking at the mental health in that circumstances? But
mental health, the financial health, the ability to provide for the family, all of those pieces. Yeah. It's such a big topic. I'm glad you brought it up, and I feel like there's no way we can fix it. And I don't like feeling helpless. I'm not good with that.
I know.
Just saying.
Yeah. I don't think we do helpless well. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Support we do well.
Yeah.
But we need to bring this topic up, and we need to make sure that other therapists are willing to bring it up and hold the space for it.
Exactly.
And to hear all the ripples.
Oh, many. So I just wanted, I think we're gonna kind of wrap up a little bit. Okay, but I will send this list out, and please, if anybody has any questions. Oh, Deborah said that she's grateful that Illinois does allow abortion. Yeah. I think that I'd love to, later in the year, I'd love to come back, you and I doing this, especially with, because more and more experiences are going to come out of women who have not been able to terminate a pregnancy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We should bring in some therapists who are in those areas, like Cindy Doyle and some other folks who are in those states.
That's right. And Deborah said, and building clinics, that they are still building clinics in Illinois. Yeah. All right.
Thank you for having me on. Have a good Friday.
What have you got coming up, Jill?
Let's see. I'm going to be, after I travel to Europe for fun, I'll be speaking at ADEC on lesbian partner loss. They requested that. And which is really fun, right? And then I'll be speaking at the International Death, Grief, and Bereavement Conference with Deb Hart. We're going to be talking about all things cultural in terms of losses. And then there's some other things further on after that. What do you have coming up?
Good. So I've got my next clinicians grief and burnout, restoring your passion. That the next group starts April 14th. It's on a Friday morning here in Los Angeles, but it's online from 9 to 10:30 in the morning on this coast. And I'm really excited because the last group was just awesome. It was full.
I heard amazing things about it.
I was really every one of those groups are amazing. Yeah, but so I've got that coming up, and I get to go out. I signed up with our friend Didi Rodriguez. She and I are both going for 5 days of a certification training with Portland Loss and Transition with
nice.
So I'm so excited. And
I'll be hanging with him at the 2 conferences. I love talking.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah, he attends those conferences. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Our friend Jill Harrington, she will be there that weekend too. And so I've got.
That's awesome. Well, I will think of you while you're doing your group. I'll be in Germany on a boat at the time.
Woo! Fun.
Right? Okay. And then you can find more stuff from me at JillJohnsonYoung.com.
Excellent. And I say go to privatepracticegrief.com.
Absolutely. 100% of the time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.